Hey friends, it's Rowan. I just wanted to jump on real quick and say you might hear a small clicking or skipping sound in my microphone this episode. It shouldn't be too disruptive, and in fact, many people may not notice it at all. We had such a fun time with our guest Spencer Stark that we didn't think it was worth scrapping the episode just because the tech gremlins made an appearance. Especially because in this episode, you'll hear an exciting surprise that we've never done on this podcast before. So, thanks for joining us for part 3 of our series on Pompeii, Herculaneum, and Acts of God.
So we've been playing games in the office as like a way of coping with stress when we need to. And so we were talking about like the games that we would play as kids and like how fun, basically like
Kerplunk? Are we talking about Kerplunk?
We're talking about Kerplunk. Okay. You want to give a rave about Kerplunk?
Spencer started the like tee up to Kerplunk, and I just spun out like a crazy little top the first time that we had this conversation. Kerplunk is that game, for anyone who doesn't know, that was a plastic tube, and you would stick all these sticks through holes on each side so they'd make like a little net of sticks, and then you'd pour marbles that would be held by the sticks, and you have to pull the sticks out and see who messes it up. It is the most satisfying game. I think it probably fills that place that is not unlike watching videos of someone popping a zit in a little bit of ways.
Okay.
I think it probably fills that place of like pickup sticks, but better.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of Jenga going on.
It's got Jenga energy.
Jenga stresses me out.
Okay,
so
you would not like the game that is our new game that is like Jenga. No, you didn't!
So I got Kerplunk. I'm holding it in front of the camera.
Yeah, Spencer is currently holding up Kerplunk.
I found it on eBay.
Oh my god.
The old version of Kerplunk.
Here's the thing about me. If I went into playing a game like Kerplunk or Mega Kerplunk, which I'm sure soon will be invented by Rowan Hall and Spencer Stark, I can only do it if the energy is silly, goofy time. If it's competitive,
1,000%, yes.
If it's competitive, I'm not partying. But if it's silly, goofy time, I'm in it.
So the cool thing about Kerplunk is that unlike something like Jenga, there isn't a moment where everything falls and you lose immediately. So as like a resolution thing, it isn't like everything's fine until immediately it's not.
Okay,
instead,
now I'm way back on board.
Right, so instead,
you lose
it's like
marble
a slow,
by marble.
You lose marble by marble, so like you might lose 1 or 2 or 5, but there's still the mass of them up there. So you can have, as like a resolution device, have more than, you can have some level of failure without having absolute failure.
I can't believe you bought Kerplunk. I stayed as the scream face, just sitting here. Like,
yes,
Kerplunk is everything. Kerplunk is what Jenga wishes it was.
I actually do agree with that. I fully stand next to Rowan, saying it with my whole chest. Kerplunk is what Jenga wishes it was, and it's what I want Jenga to be.
The thing that you'll also like is when the marbles fall, they are self-contained in the tube. So it does make noise, it is dramatic, but they're not falling across the whole like table, living room, dining room situation, which is much better.
Yes.
No shade to Jenga, but you're not Kerplunk.
Should we do a podcast?
Oh, right. No, we are doing a podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We are doing a podcast.
Hi, I'm Rowan Hall.
Oh, is that what this is? Hi, I'm Tracy Harrison.
And I'm Spencer Stark.
And this is Willing and Fable, the podcast that brings you original retellings and in-depth research on the history, mystery, mythology, and Kerplunk that makes the world so fascinating.
Each week, we research a topic from history or mythology or gaming, and then we write an original story to go along with this topic. So if you'd like to support our show, consider following us on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter, and we love getting to interact with everyone online.
You can also support the show by telling Tracy how amazing she was. The Candela Obscura book's out now. She just got her copy. We're so proud of her. Everyone knows she came out and basically had a sleepover party with us just writing 24/7, which was like the greatest gift in all the world. So
it was absolutely incredible. And okay, so Rowan and Spence both know this because I sent them the video of when I got my
She made me cry.
Book. I made myself cry. I made myself cry and shake. I was genuinely shaking for like an hour afterwards because having gone out there and worked with you guys, seeing my work in the book was so a once in a lifetime experience. Well, hopefully not once in a lifetime experience. It was an incredible experience. And the thing that really got me, though, was I remember sitting with you guys in meetings and late at night talking about the flourishes in books and talking about these tiny details that meant so much to you because it represented the details of the world that we were building together, and knowing everything that went on behind the scenes and how much genuine, detailed thought you guys put into this book. Like, I'm going to start tearing up now. I can't talk about it without getting emotional because the love that is in Candela Obscura cannot be overemphasized. And that comes from your hearts fully. And to have been a part of that and been in that world was incredible. But I got emotional because I know what it took to get from Word documents to book.
Yes.
And you guys did that. And that was a triumph. I have to stop talking. I'm gonna cry.
That's so kind.
I love you both. And congratulations to the end of the world. I mean, you deserve it. I have no words.
Thank you.
I have no words, which is unfortunate for a podcast.
The limited edition copy
good work.
is perfect for your living room specifically, being green and gold. And the happiness that brings me, I cannot overstate. The fact that it looks good in Tracy Harrison's living room is an achievement.
Oh, I'm honored. Yeah, it fit perfectly on my bookshelf. I immediately took a picture of it, and I had to include the tarot deck that I bought while I was out there with you guys. It was an Art Nouveau tarot deck because we were working on Candela, and it was actually for a game we were going to play. That's my fun little behind-the-scenes secret of that tarot deck. We bought that for a game.
Yeah, a game we
played.
hacked a lot. Oh, hey, the other way that you can support the podcast is by supporting the people who support us. It's a lot of support going all the way around. Head over to greenleafgeek.com. I don't know if you guys know, we've partnered with Leah for a very, very long time because she is arguably the best person in the TTRPG community. Yep. She has made us more than a few custom sets of dice.
Yes.
I think the majority of dice I've ever given to people are from Greenleaf Geek.
Absolutely. Oh, I always buy dice from Leah because she has the best curated collections. But then if you need something really special, you can get special custom dice for her. And I know multiple people in my life who have now got custom Leah dice for their characters.
Okay, hear me out. Shop her curated collection, get a bunch of really cool dice, and then just put them away in a drawer. And when you get invited somewhere and you find out it's someone's birthday way too late, or you need like a housewarming thing, then you have really amazing cool dice just on hand.
Yes. Did I tell you a fun fact? I have one of Leah's sets of dice at work. And when we need to take turns doing something at work, someone else and I started having us roll for initiative. And that's been really fun.
That's so good.
It's been entertaining.
Oh, I'm taking that to work with me.
It's a great way to, like, if you need to give updates or shake up a meeting or just make people laugh, make them roll to do stuff.
Hey, guys, we're going to shake up this meeting. Everyone roll a D20. Add your modifier.
That was the joke we were making. We're like, oh, we need to figure out everyone's modifiers.
Modifier -1 for tired.
Yeah, there you go.
So, hey, if you want to roll for initiative at your job, head over to greenleafgeek.com. And when you do, use the code FABLE, that's FABLE, for 10% off your order. Some restrictions apply.
Or you can support our show by wearing friendship bracelets with all your besties. Let's see if I can get one.
We all three held up our beaded BFF bracelets.
But no matter what you do, we're just happy to have you here.
So Spencer and I went to Big Bad Con and we were on a panel about leading a TTRPG project. And a lot of friends of ours were also on the panel. Anthony, who wrote for Candela. Everyone's giving such stalwart adult advice. And Spencer and I are sitting up there like, you should get everybody on your team friendship bracelets because it'll make everybody happy.
Yes.
And I stand by that.
Espouse the benefits of friendship bracelets and of laying on the floor while you work.
Yeah, amazing. Nothing better.
I honestly think adults just want fruit snacks, friendship bracelets, and something else with an F. Floor time. Oh my God.
Floor
I'm so sorry. I
time.
dropped the ball.
Fruit snacks, friendship bracelets, and floor time.
Oh man!
All
right,
really
now we need matching T-shirts that say
Spencer,
it's the thing and thing and thing. You know what I mean? Like the T-shirts that have the lists that are ands. Yeah.
Spencer came up with the funniest phrase, and now we all say it. And I guess someone's gonna have to beat me out, but it's not buck up Buttercup. It's f it up Buttercup.
I love that. That's the energy I want to bring into every day.
Don't you just imagine a little T-shirt with just a little bunny with a flower in its mouth, and it's so cute.
Oh, a little
and
daisy,
then underneath,
for sure.
Wouldn't it be a buttercup though?
Like a little buttercup. Yeah.
But what it means for us, what's come to mean for us, is when somebody's like, okay, I have a bad pitch.
Oh, f it up, Buttercup.
Right? Yeah,
man.
Like, just go for it. Like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about being bad. Like, just go. If you're like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but I'm gonna try it. It's like, yeah, f it up, Buttercup.
Or when you're at the TTRPG table and someone's like, oh, I don't think I should make this roll. You're like, no, f it up, Buttercup.
F it up, Buttercup.
Yes, that's the new do it for the plot, but in a supportive way.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So,
incredible. I'm gonna say that at work, and then everyone's gonna be like, excuse me?
You're like, yeah, I just said buck up, Buttercup. I'm mean. Grr.
Yeah, I said what I said.
Okay, speaking of the plot, what's the plot? We're on part 3 of this series on Pompeii and Herculaneum, and now
natural disasters.
Acts of God. Times that a god said, "F it up, Buttercup." And now it's Spencer's turn. Take it over.
It is. We're going to talk about 3 acts of God that I think are fascinating. The first one we're going to talk about is the Lake Neos disaster. Is this something any of you have heard of?
Yeah, because you told me about it for the first time, and it rocked my whole boat.
I'm just insane and already know about this.
The best. Okay, so it's August 21st, 1986. In the African country of Cameroon, early in the morning before the sun has come up, a light drizzle starts coming down from the sky. But something is strange here. Looking up at the moon, you realize there are no clouds in the sky. How could it be raining without clouds?
How could it be raining without clouds?
Hey, I have a quick question.
Sure.
How can it be raining without clouds?
That's the question. That's the question we all want to know the answer to. And before you realize what's happening, you feel yourself out of breath, like you've been running for miles, but you've only been standing still. You look around and see others, people, and livestock on the ground struggling. They take breath after breath, but are still suffocating just like you. And that's the last thing you see as your legs go weak, your vision goes blurry, and all goes black.
That's terrifying.
That really is.
Terrifying. 1,700 people, 3,500 livestock, over 90% of those who live in this region fallen dead without warning or explanation. This is the Lake Neos disaster.
I just didn't know that it was 90% of the people that live there. I knew it was a major disaster on the lake,
yes, but 90% of the people that live
What's
there.
going on with that 10% that made them impervious? Does their blood carry extra? Oh, really?
We're going to talk about it. Yeah, I mean, kind of. Yeah, I mean, we're going to cover a little bit. Like there are certain. We'll jump into it. So Cameroon is a country that borders the Gulf of Guinea, southeast of Nigeria, home to one of Africa's oldest forests known as the Korup National Park, and also a now infamous place called Lake Neos, where this event took place. Neos is a deep crater lake that sits on top of an inactive volcano. Because of this, below the surface of the lake boils a pocket of magma that is leaking a steady stream of carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide builds up in the cold, deep water held down by the warmer water above like a cork in a bottle. So essentially, it's like leaking this carbon dioxide and being shoved down because of the warm water, which is so wild. And
something here about a metaphor with me and negative emotions.
right. Yep.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Oh, Tracy,
art reflects life. Life reflects art. Yep.
This isn't art.
Yep.
This is science.
And as we know, science never reflects art nor life.
No. On August 21st, 1986, that cork popped. The carbon dioxide exploded out of the lake at a high velocity, shooting a column of water 330 feet up in the air. And because carbon dioxide is heavier than oxygen, this became what was essentially an invisible tidal wave that spread over the surrounding villages in the early morning, while most people were still asleep, suffocating them. Since discovering what happened, scientists now vent the lake with a 670-foot pipe that reaches the bottom of the lake and allows the carbon dioxide to escape so that it doesn't overflow again.
Wait, all the time?
They vent it all the time now because otherwise it will just continue to build up. I think it's probably like periodically, but they will just go in and vent this lake so that this explosion of carbon dioxide doesn't like erupt suddenly like a geyser. And then, I mean, if we think about it, right, it's basically an invisible version of a volcano because it's like erupting up and then spreading out. So we're talking about the 90% of people that died. As that cloud came down and over the village, the thought is that like it pooled in places where there were dips.
Oh.
So like the people that were living higher up in the village, they didn't get it as bad, or they weren't as affected, right? It didn't stay where it sat. It literally like went down into the valley and then just sat. And it was an invisible cloud of gas. So like you wouldn't see anything.
Oh my God.
Literally nothing to see. Just you breathe and there's no oxygen in the air.
That's an old god, right? You know, if you live back in the time before major light pollution, back before all the modern malarkey, that's an old god.
Well, and this is in 1986, right? So, like, we have records of this because it's so modern.
Yeah, but it has to have done it before.
You can only imagine it have happened. Right, that's what I'm thinking. Like, it had to have happened so many times before.
It has to be infrequently happening enough that there isn't enough. Like, people haven't built up that region. Don't go there. Don't live there. It's not safe there. Mm-hmm.
This is why.
Or maybe there is. Maybe there is. But
here's the thing: this is how lore keeps us safe. It's like gossip, but better because it's terrifying. Mm-hmm. Like, you gotta have lore, which means you gotta make your own personal lore. Or, you know, bad things could happen.
I like that. Make your own personal lore. For
safety.
Yeah. Anyway, the Lake Neos disaster is one of those things that still sits with me because the fact that it's invisible and it just spread like in the night and just killed, you know, what was it, 1,700 people, 3,500 livestock. Like, it's there would be no explanation for it before modern science, and so it would feel quite literally like an act of God. Which is so neat. Okay, we have another one to jump into. I know that we're the Carrington event is something that you both have probably heard of as well, but we're gonna chat about it because we're
just both sagely nodding.
Yes, I love it. So we're gonna talk about the what I put in the script is like the ominously named the Carrington event, which feels science fiction.
It is
just a name.
I'm sorry, not to fully derail us, but I just want to acknowledge that in the previous 2 episodes, the owner-operators of this podcast were like, Spencer, you also still have to research. And then in this episode, Tracy and I did nothing to help Spencer.
That's so true.
No. This is my jam.
Absolutely.
This is my jam.
So sorry. It just hit me like
Do not be sorry.
A flood
this is my
of carbon dioxide.
Oh, we're so happy to have you here, Spencer.
No, it's so fun. I mean, it's terrifying and awful, but also it's old gods. It's old gods.
Spencer, you're like, if you had to hold up 2 hands, it would be like terrifying and awful, and I love it and it's fun, and like put your hands together, and that is Spencer Stark.
We just like, need it together like a little scary bread.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You're just a scary bread.
Scary
like those
bread.
rainbow dough breads where you can see how it got kneaded together.
They're my favorite.
Oh yeah,
I
my
love
favorite.
those.
Okay. Back on track from the rainbow bread to the Carrington event. To understand this event, we first have to understand a little bit about solar storms. So to quote the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, quote, solar radiation storms occur when a large-scale magnetic eruption, often causing a coronal mass ejection and associated solar flare, accelerates charged particles in the solar atmosphere to very high velocities. The most important particles are protons, which can get accelerated to large fractions of the speed of light. At these velocities, the protons can traverse the 150 million kilometers from Sun to Earth in just tens of minutes or less. When they reach Earth, the fast-moving protons penetrate the magnetosphere that shields Earth from lower energy charged particles. Once inside the magnetosphere, the particles are guided down the magnetic field lines and penetrate into the atmosphere near the north and south poles.
That's terrifying.
So, and it's a lot of science, but it is wild that these things are traveling in 10 minutes or less.
No, it's tens of minutes. So next time I'm running late, I'm going to say I'll be there in tens of minutes.
Tens of minutes. Yes, thank you. I'll be there in tens of minutes.
Tens of minutes.
Could be 10,
I
could be
love
20,
that.
could be 30.
Who knows?
Depends
Certainly
on the
not
speed.
me.
But they're also like just protons, right? They're just like tiny particles. But solar radiation storms can cause several impacts near Earth. This is continuing the quote. Solar radiation storms cause several impacts near Earth. When energetic protons collide with satellites or humans in space, they can penetrate deep into the object that they collide with and cause damage to electronic circuits or biological DNA. During the more extreme solar radiation storms, passengers and crew in high-flying aircraft at high latitudes may be exposed to radiation risk. Also, when the energetic protons collide with the atmosphere, they ionize the atoms and molecules, thus creating free electrons. These electrons create a layer near the bottom of the ionosphere that can absorb high-frequency radio waves, making radio communication difficult or impossible. Okay, all of that is going to apply here, which is why we had such a long quote. But, like, these things, f*** it up, Buttercup. Right? Like, they just really mess everything up.
Yeah. And these aren't like super rare events. Like there are solar radiation storms happening all the time on the sun, right?
But yes, but not of this magnitude. Not of the
Okay.
magnitude of the
Biological
Carrington
DNA
event.
is also a very chill way to say living person or animal or plant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in 1859, we had the worst geomagnetic solar storm in recorded history. The coronal mass ejection, or CME, as it's abbreviated by scientists, came hurtling towards the Earth at an incredible speed. It only took a little under 18 hours to reach the Earth from the sun, where normally a CME would take a few days to get here. Scientists theorized that a previous CME might have cleared the way of ambient solar wind plasma that normally would slow down the ejection on its journey 93 million miles across the solar system. So essentially, like, there was a previous one.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, like, knocked all the stuff out of the way. The theory is it knocked all the stuff out of the way. So then the next one, which was bigger, didn't run into all of these, like, you know, all this, like, solar
Resistance.
wind plasma.
I
Yeah.
get that ambient solar wind plasma is a thing. I understand what it means, but
Yeah.
the cognitive dissonance
Yeah.
between those four words together.
Ambient solar wind plasma.
The sun's got a lot of stuff going on.
It's got
honestly.
well, yes, it has a lot of
It's
stuff
got
going
like
on.
the things smashing together, creating little explosions and fusion and fission happening all the time. And so then you get that plasma, which is a weird state of matter that doesn't make sense. And then it's just wibbly wobbling going around. And I guess this just this said, "F it up, Buttercup," and went right on through.
Like there was, yeah, like if we imagine, you know, sort of like this is a bad metaphor, but like it's essentially like an ocean of waves,
Yeah.
right? And like
Yeah.
when something hits the ocean, it slows down because it has to, like if it's going underwater or like it hits the water, it has to slow. And then essentially some other powerful CME.
Like if a giant squid came by
Uh-huh.
and ate all the little fishes
right.
and all the little critters, I don't know, they eat plankton now too.
Or just cleared the ocean like Moses parting the Red Sea, right? And so
Yeah.
all of a sudden, instead of hitting water and slowing down, it just continued straight through to the Earth, and it got here in 18 hours as opposed to, a couple of days.
Yeah.
It would be an incredible amount of force that's hitting the Earth in a way that would take essentially two impossible events happening one after the other to achieve.
It's one of those worst case scenario situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But over time, right, all probability doesn't matter over time. Like if you have any length of time, probability becomes unimportant because it will inevitably happen. So we think, as like collective humanity, but like scientists think that's probably what happened here. So when it hit Earth, a few incredible things happened. The first is that a massive aurora appeared across the night sky, lighting it up like nothing people of that time had ever seen. According to Scientific American, these auroras, quote, turn night to day as far south as Panama. People could read the newspaper by their crimson and green light. Gold miners in the Rocky Mountains woke up and ate breakfast at 1 a.m., thinking the sun had risen on a cloudy day.
No, bad.
Oh, that's so... I mean, that's
Isn't
bad.
that wild?
From a storytelling perspective, incredible.
If you live to tell the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm imagining this in a fictional world.
Right.
Fictional. In our world, bad. Fictional world, also bad, but fictional.
Very cool. So I found this awesome account from an Australian gold miner who said, quote, I was gold digging at Rokewood, about 4 miles from Rokewood Township, which is Victoria. Myself and 2 mates looking out of the tent saw a great reflection in the southern heavens at about 7:00 p.m. And in about half an hour, a scene of almost unspeakable beauty presented itself. Light of every imaginable color were issuing from the southern heavens, one color fading away only to give place to another, if possible more beautiful than the last, the streams mounting to the zenith, but always becoming a rich purple when reaching there, and always curling round, leaving a clear strip of sky, which may be described as 4 fingers held at arm's length. So there was like
That's
a
thick.
clear strip, and then there were like just this impossible painting.
It sounds so beautiful, and I'm so scared because it can't mean good things. Also, I am going to need you to go back and reread that whole thing with the Australian accent, please. Thank you.
Sorry.
For the
I gotta-
authenticity.
I gotta do it. Yep. No, only option we have. No, but like also finding, I was like, I have to go find some sort of account from somebody because I need to know. And so when I ran across the Australian gold miner who had like this beautiful,
Who missed their calling as a poet
I
because that's
know.
a beautiful description.
Anyway, I couldn't even imagine like the it was saying at 7:00 or 7:30, I guess it showed up. And so anyway, the aurora sort of faded into the sky, I guess, and then all of a sudden around the world, like it was obviously different times, but like around the world different people saw it at different times. So like the gold miners in the Rocky Mountains woke up at 1 a.m., right? And the people in
Wild.
Australia saw it at 7 p.m. So
Right.
and all of this is reporting from 1859. So I always take all of it with a little bit of a grain of salt, just because we don't know how, especially in the next one we'll talk about. But like just to think about all these people seeing the same event at different times,
Right.
but the same time, but all over the world. It's wild.
It's interesting to think about people seeing this too before we had movies today where we can just VFX beautiful, crazy skies and aliens and stuff.
Yeah.
Seeing that rainbow effect
Yeah.
must have been even more impactful.
Right. I mean, an act of God, right? Like you would see it and be
Right.
like, there is something way bigger than we are up there, which is wild. The second thing that happened was that it deeply affected telegraph machines. So
Oh.
many of them gave their operators a sharp shock on their hands, and some of them literally threw sparks.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so cool. But the most wild of all, and the thing that made me so excited about this in particular, was that some of them continued to be able to send messages back and forth despite their power supply being completely disconnected. So the telegraphs were essentially running on power that was being transmitted through the air. So I have a conversation that was recorded between an operator in Boston, Massachusetts, and an operator in Portland, Maine, that recorded this event happening in real time, and I would love for the two of you to read this.
I want to be Portland.
You want to be Portland?
but can you do the Boston accent?
No.
Okay, well,
That's why I
no
wanna
need
be
for accents.
Portland.
Boston operator, Portland operator. So we're gonna start with the Boston operator to the Portland operator, which I think Tracy's gonna be you if you want to.
Yeah, apologies because I don't think I can do.
Don't do the Boston accent. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Please cut off your battery power source entirely for 15 minutes.
Sorry, are we being men? Are these men? They're not women, right?
Do we want to yassify them? We can yassify
You
them.
can do whatever you want. I don't care.
Okay,
Can we-
Trace,
Please
yassify
cut
him.
hairspray. Please cut. No, I'm not going to do that. Please cut off your battery power source entirely for 15 minutes.
Will do so. It is now disconnected.
Mine is disconnected, and we are working with the auroral current. How do you receive my writing?
Better than with our batteries on. Current comes and goes gradually.
My current is very strong at times, and we can work better without the batteries, as the aurora seems to neutralize and augment our batteries alternately, making current too strong at times for our relay magnets. Suppose we work without the batteries while we are affected by this trouble.
Very well. Shall I go ahead with business?
Yes, go ahead.
They were like, we just have to unplug our devices because they are overpowered. We're just going to work off of the electricity that's traveling through the atmosphere.
It's incredible. First of all, it destroys my entire degree, which is turn it off and turn it on.
Right, yes,
So-
it really does. It destroys all IT.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything I was taught, gone, ruined. And I love that they're like, yeah, sometimes it's too powerful, turn it off. We'll just work with we're gonna run on auroral power.
Right? They were like, no, we can't. We have to unplug the batteries because otherwise the current is too like dysregulated or whatever. Like, yeah, anyway.
No, it made me say something harder than that.
It makes me want to do.
As the aurora seems to neutralize and augment our batteries alternately.
It makes me
Yes.
want to invent a fictional place where things run on auroral power.
I'm telling you, this is like the most inspirational episode. I'm like, when are we getting together and making this? I want to create this world.
It's like the free energy that Tesla was always talking about,
Yes.
right?
Oh my God, that's exactly what this is.
Like, I would not be surprised if there was inspiration from things like this in that.
Do you think there were a lot of experiments done after this to try to recreate the power of
Oh,
the
I'm
auroras?
sure.
I can only imagine.
There had to be.
So my biggest takeaway from all of this for me is that if this were to happen again in modern times, scientists have said it would completely disrupt our daily lives now that literally everything runs on a power grid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like power outages that happen normally. This would be extended and widespread blackouts that would affect almost the entire world at once. So in their paper titled Solar Storm Risk to North American Electric Grid, the team at the Atmospheric and Environmental Research Group said, quote, "The total U.S. population at risk of extended power outage from a Carrington-level storm is between 20 to 40 million, with durations of 16 days to 1 to 2 years. The duration of outages will depend largely on the availability of spare replacement transformers. If new transformers need to be ordered, the lead time is likely to be a minimum of 5 months. The total economic cost for such a scenario is estimated at 0.6 to 2.6 trillion dollars USD."
That's a lot of money.
I wonder how many people died because of various things that were affected by this. Like the auxiliary deaths.
I don't know. I don't have those numbers, but I think it's in the very least like the amount of electricity that was traveling through the air also traveled through people's bodies, right? So like in areas that weren't as affected, you could do this transmission, but I can only imagine there are places where people just like got electrocuted.
But also, if there were power outages, how many hospitals were affected, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
I wonder what the hair day was like. I'm sorry, I know that's petty, but I do wonder what the frizz situation was, because the hair dryers with the ion whatever makes your hair smoother, but I don't think that this is a hair smoothing experience.
No, I would imagine not. I mean, it's 1859 when this happened, right? So like, you two would probably know better than I would, but like the amount of electricity that's being used
Minimal.
is minimal.
But not non-existent.
But not non-existent. So it would be, it would affect the things that were electric, but not affect daily life in the way it would now, right? Like if we're talking, you know, complete like outages for 16 days to 1 to 2 years, like if there's an area of the US that was hit strongest by this, like they would just not have internet or home power for a year.
I don't know if our infrastructure could handle it better now. I would be interested.
Probably not. It's something that tech people talk a lot about, of like, how do you prevent against that and protect it? Hopefully we can resist it better. But what this made me think of is, have you guys heard of the South Atlantic anomaly?
No.
Which is considered the Bermuda Triangle of space.
No.
Okay, get ready. I just had to quickly Google it, so apologies, because this was not researched in advance. It was just something that
this is awesome.
saw in a YouTube video once, I think. So the South Atlantic anomaly, I'm at space.com. We'll share a link in the in our credits so you guys can check out this article too. But they say the Bermuda Triangle of space, or the South Atlantic anomaly, as it is formally known, lies above the South Atlantic, stretching from Chile to Zimbabwe. It sits at the point where the inner Van Allen radiation belt comes closest to Earth's surface. Here, Earth's magnetic field is particularly weak. So higher amounts of radiation affect the spacecraft's onboard electronic systems, and this dent in the magnetic field is actually moving westward and splitting into two. And when people are doing trips around the Earth, they're orbiting, they have to account for that they're going to run into this area and that none of their tech is going to work. And they're basically like, they might have to shut down and float through it. They might have to put extra protection around, but it could get into the ship and the radiation could actually ruin the machines. And they have to know that this anomaly, this Bermuda Triangle, exists in this stretch of the world.
The billionaires are going to be really affected by
that. They may be, but also they can be affected by it. I don't care about them. I do care about the scientists.
Right.
I want better for them.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's so cool.
Yeah. So that's just when we were talking about this happening now, I'm like, wait, I've heard of something like this happening, and it's the South Atlantic anomaly.
So wild. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen again. Again, scientists think it was two incredibly unlikely events happening at the same time or right around each other that caused it to occur. But yeah, I mean, it could just deeply like destroy everything for a large population of people. So absolutely wild. Okay, the last one we're going to talk about is the Tunguska incident. Again, such a cool name. Such a cool name.
You guys can't see Rowan doing a little dance.
Sorry, I was dancing like we were at the club.
Yeah.
I love this.
That's how you get me and Rowan to do a dance like we're at a club. You don't take us to a club. You talk about fun history and mythology.
The Tunguska incident. Well, speaking of history and mythology, this is, out of the three, this is the one that probably has the least concrete information.
Delicious.
About it. So it's still a little bit of a mystery. There's lots of theories behind it, but it doesn't. Rowan doing the.
I think that's the sprinkler.
The sprinkler.
Sprinkler.
It's the sprinkler. I'm a big fan of the grocery cart shopping.
Love it.
Monster Mash.
Okay, so on the morning of June 30th, 1908, in Siberia, Russia, there was a mysterious bluish light about the brightness of the sun cascading across the sky and leaving a small trail in its wake. According to observers in the hills of Lake Baikal, upon its collision with the Earth, there was a bright explosion, a billowing cloud of smoke, followed by a pillar of fire. The pillar then split in two and dissolved, becoming black. Then, about 10 minutes later, they were hit with the sound of heavy artillery fire that knocked people off their feet and shattered windows.
Okay, that is an angry demon. That's him teleporting and visiting or something. I mean, that is
like a pillar of fire that was split into and then became black. Like I could only, and then it takes 10 minutes.
I've played this video game. I've fought this guy.
Right.
I mean, that is like I swear to God, this sounds like a cutscene
from like God of War, right? Like
yes, yeah.
And I buried the lead here a little because if you're imagining that those people who were observing what they were seeing from this from maybe a few miles out, you might be confused why it took 10 minutes for the sound of whatever happened to reach them. If the reporting here is accurate, then these observers would have seen all of this happen from around 550 miles away from the crash site. So that would be like being on the most eastern end of New York City and watching all of this happen in Columbus, Ohio.
Aliens.
It was so huge that hopefully puts the size and scale of the explosion in a new perspective, because the Tunguska incident is the largest impact event in recorded history, estimated at 12 megatons.
I knew it was big. I'm still processing because it takes, I mean, just let's say you're driving from New York to Columbus, Ohio, at least 10 hours.
Right. 550 miles.
Too big. Put it back.
Too big.
Put it back.
The event flattened over 80 million trees, covering 2,200 square kilometers. For reference, the explosion was about 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima during World War II. So it was quite literally astronomical.
And we're very lucky that it happened to fall in a portion of the globe where there just aren't as many people.
Right.
I can't stop thinking about this. Like, because you're right. This happened where there's not a lot of people. The last, the big event happened when we didn't have that much technology to destroy.
Yeah.
Like, why are we still lucky and when is it happening?
Yes, I know, right? Well, and I have a little further down in the research, the size in comparison to other things. So we will get there, but just know that like this thing, I mean, imagine being 500 miles away from a thing and seeing literally a pillar of fire and smoke. I mean, it had to have been so large that it literally, the curvature of the earth was not enough to hide it, right?
How did people feel about aliens in 1908? Was that a thing that
it
people
had to have been, right? Because we've
concerned about?
Yeah. I think people were, they definitely, I would imagine, thought about extraterrestrial life. It was the 40s and 50s and 60s when it really became a boom with the Roswell and the abduction of the couple whose name I don't remember.
Oh God.
We're not alien people just by nature, but if I saw something that big falling from space, I'd consider it for sure.
One time I was laying in my backyard in high school and I was looking up and I saw what looked like a star, but it was slowly moving and then it would flash and then disappear and then flash and disappear and flash and disappear. And I was like, I just saw an alien. Then I went on Google and discovered that it was a satellite that was spinning and reflecting the sun. And I was like, still really cool.
Honestly,
not alien,
I'm
but
kind of
still
bummed
so
for
cool.
you that you figured that out. Like,
I know.
how nice would it have been to live in that for just a little bit?
I've got one for you. I still, to this day, don't. This isn't my story, but I have an uncle who insists he saw aliens.
Good. Yes, tell us everything right now.
I'll reach out to him and ask for details because he's told it my whole life, and eventually we've all gotten to the point where we're like, okay, yeah, Uncle Jim, we get it. You saw an alien, but he says he was driving home, and I remember he says he saw something on the side of the road. It was him and a few other people got out of their cars, and there was this big cylindrical thing that was glowing, and he said he felt really weird. I don't remember. Sorry, Uncle Jim, if you're listening to this and I'm getting the details wrong, but he said he felt really weird, and then I think he got in his car and I think like there was like a time skip or something where he just this family man from New Jersey insists anytime this kind of topic comes up, he's like, well, I saw aliens, and like there was the alien that I saw and like the alien ship that me and a bunch of other people saw.
Did he see an alien or did he just see an alien ship?
Ship. I believe it was just the ship. I don't know if he saw a little green man.
How audacious of me to be like, was it really the biologic alien or was it just the spaceship?
Yeah, are we talking about what the U.S. government has revealed or what the Mexican government has revealed? Okay, where are we landing?
I think that the idea that something extraterrestrial came from space and crash landed on Earth has probably existed for as long as humans have been around in some respect, because
Space is big.
of events like this, honestly, like things
Yeah.
that just came from space, and they're like, that has to be either a god or some other living being.
One of my favorite parts about Lake Baikal is it's so gosh darn deep. And there have been scary
Yes.
things like that happening around there that people are like, oh yeah, the aliens just go there and they take their ships down and they just live under there.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about it in my episode on Lake Baikal. People are like, oh yeah, we saw some
Oh, we
lights, so
did.
we did a little
Yeah.
dive and we saw some aliens. Like, okay.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Great.
So there are a few eyewitness reports from close to the blast,
Yes.
though most of them are in old Russian newspapers. So I had to go find old Russian newspapers that somebody had translated, and this one is from somebody with the last name Semenov, and was collected by Russian mineralogist Leonid Kulik during his expedition in 1930. Sorry if any of those names are pronounced incorrectly, those who speak Russian.
I was sitting here being like, wow, I'm so impressed. Spencer crushed it.
Okay, Rowan, do you want to read this for us? This quote from Leonid, or from not from Leonid Kulik, it's from Semenov.
I suddenly saw that directly to the north, over the Onkul's Tunguska Road, the sky split in two and fire appeared high and wide over the forest.
As Semenov showed, about 50 degrees up. Expedition note.
The split in the sky grew larger, and the entire northern side was covered with fire. At that moment, I became so hot that I couldn't bear it, as if my shirt was on fire. From the northern side, where the fire was, came strong heat. I wanted to tear off my shirt and throw it down, but then the sky shut closed, and a strong thump sounded, and I was thrown a few meters. I lost my senses for a moment, but then my wife ran out and led me to the house. After that, such noise came, as if rocks were falling or cannons were firing. The earth shook, and when I was on the ground, I pressed my head down, fearing rocks would smash it. When the sky opened up, hot wind raced between the houses, like from cannons, which left traces in the ground like pathways, and it damaged some crops. Later, we saw that many windows were shattered, and in the barn, a part of the iron lock snapped.
Wild.
Yeah.
Okay, my guy.
It actually reminds me of the descriptions we read for Pompeii.
Yeah. Doesn't it?
Good job, Spencer.
Thanks.
Yeah.
In 1930, you know, like this is only what? I mean, it was some time. It was 22 years afterwards. So figure there, you know, there is some level of story of remembering the story and but still, despite all of that, to have a firsthand account of the event and to hear like just the phrase like when the split in the sky grew larger is so cool.
And the thing I keep having to remind myself is that at that time, people who had not seen war had not seen war. So we today sit around and we're like, oh yeah, I've seen footage of bombs dropping, or I'm familiar with what that might be like. But to have no idea of what it could be, something like that, and then be in the middle of it must be an entirely different experience. I mean, that's why footage was so effective during Vietnam, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Well, perhaps the most mysterious part and the thing that has led to lots of conspiracy theories around this event is that all eyewitness descriptions point to this being a meteoric impact, but there was no meteor to be found. And there was no impact crater left at the site. There was no sign of anything hitting the Earth that would have caused the destruction.
Oh, it's so good. How many websites did you go on that were black with green font?
Oh, so many.
Oh, good.
So many just to find like all the different conspiracy theories. But
oh, yeah.
To squash any kind of doubt, scientists have lots of theories about how something like this might have happened. So while it's weird, it's not unexplainable because science. But I can only imagine at the time, right? They're like, what happened here? Like, we saw something fall and then nothing. There's nothing.
That's crazy. There's not an impact site. And they saw all the debris coming down, which would indicate something falling and hitting, but nothing fell and hit.
All the trees were just destroyed.
Flattened, but nothing there.
In basically a circle, effectively.
Right. It was like a giant crop circle.
This is such a cool episode.
So the current leading theory is what is known as a meteor airburst. So that's when an asteroid explodes above the Earth's surface rather than striking it.
Okay.
So in order to cause the kind of damage it did, they think the asteroid must have been about 160 to 200 feet in size, moving at 60,000 miles per hour. So 60,000 miles per hour, for reference, is about the speed that the Earth rotates around the sun. So that's a 20-story building.
That's how fast we rotate?
Coming straight at the Earth at literally galactic speed.
I didn't know we rotated that quickly.
Yeah.
No, we learned too fast in that sentence.
So there's a 20-story building that's coming at the Earth at 60,000 miles per hour, and then at between 3 and 6 miles from the Earth's surface, and within the lowest layer of our atmosphere, called the troposphere, the asteroid broke into pieces, causing the explosion of air that leveled almost 1,400 square miles. So this is a map of the size of the blast compared to Los Angeles for reference. I made this using a website that allows you to like map.
You made us a map?
Basically like, yeah, I made a map.
And
I did 1,400 square miles and I put it compared to Los Angeles so you could see how much was completely leveled.
I was actually going to ask if there was a way to see this. So this is perfect and insanely huge.
Yeah.
Real quick, I feel about like you making us a map the way I think some kids feel if you make them a cootie catcher in elementary school. I'm like, oh my gosh, you made us a map. So this is fucked up, Buttercup.
Yeah.
It is, you guys.
It's from
huge.
Santa Clarita to Long Beach, from Santa Monica to almost Ontario, if you drop that over Southern California.
Yeah.
That means nothing to you if you're not in the area or if you're not a map person, but it's all of LA plus a lot.
Yes.
Is the entire city of
Los Angeles. That's what I'm saying.
Almost all of Los Angeles
We're so
County.
lucky that it fell in Siberia. Why? I mean, there doesn't have to be a why, right? That's not, I mean, I'm not seriously asking why. We don't have to go like full conspiracy on that. But like in the way that we're discussing this from an acts of God perspective, it is a perfectly valid question, I think, to look at that and be like, why not all of the population centers? Why the spookiest ice crypt of the world?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of ice crypt, there's other speculation that the asteroid might have been made primarily of ice, which could explain why there are not large meteorite fragments found around the crash site.
That makes sense.
Because if it was ice, it would have exploded and then fell to the Earth and then melted.
Or just looked like ice that was part of ice that was amongst more Siberian ice.
Right. So they think that it could be, you know, a giant ice chunk, essentially. Which I also think that there's a world in which, like, ice and rock, right? All could.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like if it was ice shards, though, if you imagine that circle, I can imagine monolithic shards of ice. So it's still kind of bonkers to me.
Yeah.
That everything just evaporated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, other scientists also argue that like one of the bigger chunks of the meteor, if it was a meteor that broke up, might have been responsible for creating a crater that developed into a nearby lake. So it was so far away from the central area when it exploded that we were like, there was nothing. And it's like, well, there might have been something. It just was so big that it exploded in such a large radius that there was no central crater site like we would expect from a meteor. Instead, there were lots of smaller craters that were made smaller, quote unquote. One was enough to make enough to make a lake, right? So like not that small, but like small enough that we wouldn't recognize it as the main.
I feel like they would have noticed if a giant lake crater appeared. I mean, I know it takes a minute to become a lake, but still.
Well, but also, maybe they didn't if it's so uninhabited.
And it's far away.
By the time you've explored it, it's a lake.
Or maybe the people who noticed all were people whose opinions and histories weren't taken seriously.
Right.
Yeah, that's very likely.
That's
or they could have been impacted by the event
common. This is making me want to watch the X-Files so badly.
Yeah.
too. Seriously, it is making me want to like create a game or a book or something with like all of these events happening.
Yeah, it's so neat. Well, it reminds me a little bit of like Fringe, the TV show
Yes,
Fringe.
Yes, it's giving the ice melts and then the extraterrestrial beings come out of the ice.
Right, right. Well, to sort of just put a button on this, there is a more recent study that ran a model of the event using computers, and they concluded that another likely cause of an event like this could have been an asteroid that just had a glancing blow with Earth's atmosphere and then returned to space.
Cool.
It can be that devastating?
So if you think about like the Earth is a sphere, right? So something could come at the Earth like close enough to like get within our atmosphere and then continue out the other side.
Yeah, it clipped us broke apart most of Russia.
Yeah.
Or we just got bitch slapped by an eldritch god.
Right.
I was like, flick. Like, I'm sick of your shit.
Yeah.
But the idea that like an asteroid came into our atmosphere, exploded, it caused the like the sort of air pressure in that explosion that would have leveled an entire area of the Siberia and then just continued through and went back out to space and left nothing behind. That is the leading most recent study.
Isn't there also a particle physics one where like the particle just plummeted through Earth and it left destruction in its wake, but it was just a little tiny guy, just
I had no
baby
scientific
of a baby
research that supported that, but there were so many things.
God, I sound like an absolute.
Oh yeah. No, you don't sound like it sounds like, because there's research. I don't know if you guys how much you know about dark matter.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Thank
It's
you.
like-
Yeah.
It sounds like the theory based on people who don't know much about dark matter, which honestly nobody knows
that
about
much.
dark matter.
Yeah.
But I could see someone being like, well, what if a particle of dark matter, antimatter, collided with a particle of positive, our matter, and then like I could see someone. What was that not clear? In scientific terms.
Mass destruction
Exactly.
in science terms.
You get me.
Well, and what's interesting is that like it would have had to occur so high up.
Yeah.
That because even if you explode something on the ground, like if it collided with the Earth, it would have left a crater because the explosion size would have caused, just like the air would have caused the displacement of not even like the impact, but like just the explosion, the air from the explosion.
Right.
So this had to have occurred high enough up that it did not leave a crater. It just flattened everything that was
so
there
cool.
available on the surface. I'm sure
It's
it
so
did
cool.
push, some sort of sediment left and right from the center, but it wasn't like the way that we would normally think of an impact.
It's so funny. The science here is so interesting and engaging, but if we're imagining us much further back in history, I feel a little bit detached from the science because I'm like, in the community in our little village, that's not my job. It's my job to sit around by the fire and tell you the absolute scariest possible version of this story so that you're a little nicer to your neighbor. And it's like someone else's job to deal with the reality.
Yeah, we all play a part.
It was caused by like some farmer being stealing radishes from another farmer's farm, and then the explosion occurred, right? Like, yeah, that's...
And then the gods got mad, and then the explosion occurred.
But
Exactly.
yeah, it was the leveling of someone's home. 100%. Like, I'm over here talking about the tentacle god, and someone else is like, actually, as long as our planet doesn't go near that other celestial body again, we're probably fine. Like, shut up, you're messing up the vibe.
Yeah. It's me she's yelling at as I'm sitting there whispering science facts.
Yeah.
You could never ruin the vibe. You are the vibe.
I know it was a goof joke, but oh my god, that's gonna sustain me for like at least a full week.
Good.
Oh, Rowan is the best at compliments.
Well, because of the remoteness of Siberia, as we sort of talked about, it is very difficult to study the Tunguska event, and it is ultimately unlikely that we will ever know what caused it, which only makes the lore more grow in the telling, right? Like that is the whole since 1908 when it happened. I can only imagine the stories that have emerged, and especially because it is so remote.
As the main characters of this investigative TV show, we must go to Siberia to find
absolutely
the aliens in the ice.
And support the show on Patreon.
Our Arctic exploration.
So we can go to Siberia.
Yeah, this is the Arctic exploration tier.
I wonder what is left from that, right? I wonder if like there's still, I wonder if everything is recovered from that, or if there's still.
It's a single. I mean, according to the rules of storytelling, it's got to be like a single speck of a virus that will wipe out all of humanity.
No,
right?
Yes,
right.
You know,
messing with things that we should not be messing with.
Where if we just left it alone, it would have been fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But
something
back
hubris
where
of
it
man.
came from, or so help me.
Well, as my story this week, instead of writing a full narrative about some sort of horrific act of God, I instead just made a little mini game for us to play.
I'm so excited.
Spencer came over to my apartment and delivered a plastic container filled with sand.
I did.
I don't know. So let me jump in and say, here's exactly as much as I know about what Spencer has done this week. He made a game, and it involves a plastic container of sand. I believe maybe digging. End of what I know. I can't wait to learn.
So I'm going to send you the doc here that is the game for us to play.
All right, where are you sending it?
I'm sending it to your email.
I have it open.
So,
I'm so excited.
Tracy, do you want to read the first paragraph?
Oh, I would love to. I'm so excited. I can't contain myself. We are a group of archaeologists excavating the ancient civilization that once existed in the place we're from. Though there was a terrible calamity that buried them long ago, the ruins we've uncovered are preserved far better than any we've explored before, and they promise new insight into the people that lived here. First, decide what we will call this ancient place. And then there are options.
Oh, there are options.
Rowan, do you want to choose which one?
I like Damathen.
Damathen. Damathen.
Because it allures to
Damathen.
the cataclysmic event. This place was
You've
damned.
been damned. Yeah. My love, I also would have chosen Damathen, so I just need you to know that we are in heart, mind, and soul connected.
I know you.
So good. Then we're going to identify the 3 primary things this society was known for. So we're each going to choose one. Does anybody have one that jumps out to them?
Something about isolationist with a city that got destroyed. It's giving Atlantis a little bit.
Okay.
So we're going to go isolationist?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I'm choosing, to the surprise of no one, scholarly pursuits.
Ooh.
You know when
love it.
you
Scholarly
are in a
pursuits.
situation with your best friend and you're offered a choice and you have to make the choice first, but you actually just make the choice so that your friend can have the thing that they want? Scholarly pursuits.
I love you very much. I love you.
What do I want to choose next? I think I'm going to go social hierarchy.
Ooh, we love some social
It's very good.
stratification.
And like there's some stratification. Yep, 100%. Just so that we have some of that. So they're isolationists. There's a social, a very clear social hierarchy, and the thing that they were also known for was their scholarly pursuits. Our excavation so far has turned up that this civilization also seemed to place extra value on 3 of these. Again, we're each going to choose one of them.
Oh, Gosh, darn it.
As for the audience who's listening, the options here are things like bells, mirrors, a
The
specific
options here are
color.
mean because they're so incredible and I want all of them.
It's celestial bodies, alchemy, mirrors is so good.
It's
The
so
human
good.
brain is cool if it's the human brain as an object, not the human brain as a tool. Like, what's that?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Let's do...
Do you want me to choose first,
you
or do you want to
choose
choose first?
first.
No, you choose. Choose anything you want. I want you to choose literally anything you want.
I gotta choose not old fare, right? Like, I can't just... Okay,
Sure.
so then I'm gonna choose...
For anyone confused, Old Fare is from the game Candela Obscura.
Sorry. Yes. I'm gonna choose celestial bodies.
Ooh, so cool.
That's why I wanted you to go first, because I was like, if Rowan doesn't choose it, that's what I'm choosing.
Yeah.
So okay, all right. I'm gonna go architecture. I am gonna go Old Fare. We're going architecture. It's
unique architecture.
Spencer, I would
Mhm,
bet
mhm.
$100 that I know exactly where you're gonna choose. It's gonna be
I'm
such a bummer if I lose $100 today.
I'm gonna pick mine too. I'm gonna pick mine that I
Okay.
think Spencer's gonna choose.
Okay.
And we'll see if
Go ahead
let me read through these.
Go ahead and bold unique architecture, just so that we know that's the one we chose.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm gonna make a choice that's kind of left field, so it probably will.
No, that doesn't.
Well, no, but one that I'm really interested in, which is bells.
Okay.
I just lost $100 today because I truly would have assumed you would choose bones, because whenever we encounter the word bones, you go bones.
I was playing with lifelike statues. I was playing with mosaic, which I also think is interesting. Or
My guess was statues.
Yeah. But
Mhm.
bells
That was my guess.
is something interesting because there's the sound. Like if we were to go down into there and we're hearing, like when we open up these passages for the first time, and we hear that now the ringing of those bells is coming from wind passing over them for the first time.
Combined with unique architecture, you
yep.
could build the
Mhm.
architecture to fit the bells, and they
Exactly.
tell a story.
Ooh.
And then you got the iconography of celestial bodies.
Well, the bells
Correct.
have to be hung in a specific formation,
Correct.
of course, to align with the stars.
This is
Obviously.
This is
and
what
then
we're
if the
doing.
wind affects the bells, then it speaks to the prophecy, or what's
it's the
supposed to
gods
happen.
speaking to us.
Mhm,
That's how we
mhm,
listen to them.
Uh-huh.
If anyone ever wondered what it was like making a game with us,
This is exactly what it was like.
Okay, so we're ready to begin our dig. Whenever we excavate a die, we answer the question that die corresponds with in the tables below, then mark a number of X's from left to right equal to the dice's value in the table. So we have a little table that has
Yeah.
four rows, and then there's the very last column on that row is red. So if we ever when we hit the red area of the column, then we ask the next milestone question to the table.
Okay.
And we answer that one collectively. So essentially we're excavating dice individually and answering the question. And then once we reach the red square, we also ask the milestone question and answer that as a group.
are we going across horizontally,
We are
square by
going
square?
across.
Okay. So I have the sandbox. It's my
Great.
job
So,
to excavate.
There is a sandbox that you have. It's about, what would you say? Like
It's the length of my hand on all sides, from middle finger to end of palm. So what's that?
and
Just under a foot?
yeah, and then it's
How, just under a foot? How big
sorry,
are your hands?
I'm sorry, I don't know. I just panicked
like-
and thought about how feet are supposed to be a foot for that one king.
That's like, yes.
it's probably like eight
Like
8
6
inches by
to
8
8
inches.
inches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Your hands are bigger than mine,
It
so that
is-
makes sense.
it is completely filled with sand, and within
Panicked.
there are a bunch of dice that are hidden by the sand that have colors. And whatever, when you're Rowan, since you have the boxes, you're excavating, you're gonna pull them for us. If we're all collectively in the same room, obviously we'd pass it around and excavate ourselves. But you'll see that there is usually a number that shows up
Uh-huh.
that it is
Okay.
On the top.
that it is favoring.
I'm going to use my giant hands to excavate the dice.
Yeah. Long. You have beautiful. I draw hands inspired. Sorry, tangent. I draw hands. Fun fact for anyone who wonders, inspired by Rowan's hands. Every time you see hand drawings that I do, they're inspired by the fact that Rowan has really long fingers that taper at the end that I think are very beautiful.
That's true love.
So I'm not making fun of your hands. I think they're perfect, and I love
I
them.
love you.
I love you too. You want to pick a die?
Yeah, can I? I'll investigate. Ooh, the first one. Oh, this is so satisfying. Oh my God. Oh,
Can you describe the experience for me? What does it feel like digging into the sand?
It's
What's in
giving
there?
elementary school. It's giving Egyptology. It's so satisfying. Once when I was a very little kid, I was at some like museum in Salem, and there was a display that was like a pirate standing, and there was sand all around.
She's standing with one arm held up over her head, like it's got a sword in it.
It's giving Treasure Island, right? But there was sand all at his feet, and so my dad put a quarter and like a bunch of change in the sand. I was like, Rowan, like it's a pirate standing on treasure. You should dig. And told me where to dig, and I found change. And then all the other children saw that I found change and went feral, and all the other parents looked at my dad like, what did you just do?
Incredible.
So it's a green 3.
Okay, great. And as
Green
the only other
3.
direction here is as you're answering these questions, finding one of the values or the primary things society was known for, or the extra value that the civilization held, trying to integrate one or more of those into the answer is always great.
Makes sense.
Green, great. Green in 3.
Mm-hmm.
You uncover a place in the city where people would gather. What is the centerpiece of the plaza? And why does it make sense given what they valued?
Trace, do you want to go first? Because
I have an
Okay.
idea.
Okay, yeah.
Something weirdly like instantly popped into my mind as an image. So I'm imagining the center plaza is this really, really tall stone structure that was actually built. Think of like a double helix, like DNA. And in between all the strands are different shapes, size, and colors of bells that circle the whole way down. And when different bells are rung, it means different things. And if there's strings that connect in, but when there's no one pulling the strings and the bells are ringing, it's a sign that the gods are talking to you, and everyone has to stop and listen. And then it's up to certain scholars to interpret what it means. Like the average person can't always interpret what it means. The scholars are the ones who can really interpret it.
Yeah.
So it's up to everyone to record what they hear so they can hear the messages from the gods, but the scholars are the ones who interpret it. And it's at this double helix statue that's at the center of the plaza in the center of the city.
Of course, those
So
who can
cool.
interpret what the gods say have all the power.
Right.
Yes, they do. Ergo, hierarchy.
So
Okay, I'll
good.
get us another die. It's like if Icarus and For the Queen had a love child.
Had baby. Yep. Uh-huh.
I kid you not, it's a green number 3 again.
It's a green number 3 again. Okay, that's okay. So so we go to green, and the directions say when you answer a question, cross it out. If anyone excavates the same value on the same color die, they instead roll the die they excavated and add that new value to its excavated
What are the
value.
X's for?
Oh, clever.
So we mark off the X's. So you see we mark 3 X's in the row here because the value was a 3. on
Oh,
the die.
wow. Okay, so there's not
Great.
actually that many opportunities to answer questions.
No.
Okay, so I'll
Yeah. It's pretty short. I kept it pretty short for this because I didn't want us to go like 2.5 hours playing this game.
Right.
So it was a number 5 on the rolls, so that's 5 plus 3 is 8.
Great. So that's 8. So go down to green 8 and ask that question, and I'll mark
You made a split-second decision during a dig that you fear was the wrong one. What did you do, and how did it go badly? Spencer, do you want to answer?
No, you should answer.
Okay. During the dig, the dig previous to this, I was the newest member of the team. I was previously an academic. So I had a lot to prove because if you're an academic, you got soft hands and you're easily made fun of. And when
Famously.
we were excavating, I was trying to kind of fit in with the like light, jovial, sort of mocking atmosphere that sometimes happens when people are tired and overworked. And we uncovered in my sort of foot by foot square that I was working on an ancient, rusted, like pitted bell dug into the dirt. And I was wearing gloves, so I thought it was okay. I picked it up and I rang it like a dinner bell. You fool.
You fool.
You utter fool. And one of the senior archaeologists sprinted across the space and grabbed it from my hands and I was kicked off the site, and actually my university had to say, we're giving a lot of money to this. You have to let them back. And since then, strange occurrences have been happening at night.
Yeah.
To you or at the site?
At the site.
Oh, yes.
So good.
It's so good. It's so, so good.
Okay. Spencer, this one's for you.
Yes. Which one did you uncover?
It is this dice is really pretty. It's a blue number 6.
Blue 6. Okay.
Are these based on themes? Do the different colors have themes?
They do. So
tell us about it.
We're filling 6 spots. 3, 4, 5.
Oh, yeah. So we got to a milestone.
And we got a
question,
milestone.
right?
So I'm going to answer my question, and then we'll answer the first milestone question.
Okay.
So you stumble upon an ancient book that you can barely translate. What words can you read, and what about them resonates with you? I think that we've been having strange experiences in the night ever since that bell rang. And the language that the ancient book is written in is a dialect that is not the one of the people that lived here. It is the same language, but it's not the same dialect.
Ooh.
In that, like, it and we know there were isolationists. So somebody came from somewhere else with a similar language, maybe a place that was had the same origin, but was not of sorry, drawing a blank on Damathan. Was not this? It was not from Damathan.
Yeah.
And was writing about the way in which they would discover some of the buildings in the night would not be in the same formation as they were like the previous day or when they came back to visit. And they were privileged in being able to facilitate the only trade that happened with Damathan, and the only record outside Damathan, but that they had come back and the entire city was like in a different formation than it was previously. The only thing that was the same was that they recognized after being away for a couple of months was that the statue in the center, the double helix in the center with the bells, was still in the center. And everything else had shifted, and theorized the theory that this person was giving was that they were was that the movement was similar to that of the planets. Like the planetary structure of the city was shifting, but there were no like track. There was no like the buildings were not spinning or were not designed to move. So however they were moving, there was no explanation for it. And
they just suddenly changed.
And now in the night, we're feeling shifting in the ground beneath us, and we're experiencing strange sounds, and these are recorded also in this person that I'm going to name them. Their name was Bavatone, the scholar Bavatone, or the I don't know if they were a trader or merchant. I think they were probably somebody who traded knowledge. Actually, that was the thing that Damathan most highly regarded.
That makes sense.
So
that's why they would let them in.
Yes, they were essentially like a scholar, but a trader of info. And so anyway, they were Bavatone was recording the sounds and the shaking of the earth.
What are you called if you're a spy but you're not secret? Because spies just trade knowledge.
A diplomat.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so we have our first milestone. And Tracy, I think this is actually going to go to you because of your previous... Or no, it's collectively. It's collective,
right? Yeah,
so,
okay.
The architecture here seems to be a combination of 2 different styles. What unique look does this place have? So what two different architectural styles sort of mashed together in this?
Okay, well, what we're not going to do is brutalism and
yes.
Art Nouveau and Art Deco.
Sure.
Which, for those who don't know, is the difference in styles between Old Fair and New Fair in the game Candela Obscura.
Okay, can I make a
What are we
pitch?
thinking? Yeah.
Always. Yes.
This is not so much a style of architecture by name as like a big choice of a thing that they do, which is that all of their buildings and structures look like specific animals. Like some of them have feet, like underneath them, and like there are big mouths opening up into pillars, and like the doors might be giant eyes or mouths, and kind of like teeth everywhere.
I want to add on to that since I mentioned the stone double helix pillar, which I would love to come up with a cool name for. I imagine that there's a lot of different types of stone. And so all of these buildings of different animals are vaguely colored. Maybe it's white or black marble or, God, I wish I knew any stones. Limestone, other colors. I just imagine instead of paint, it's the actual stone itself that makes up some different blocks of colors.
Red clay stone, right? Like to get that red look. That's really cool. I imagine there's also like some sort of precious stone that is used to decorate some of these.
Yes.
That is still and was not. It does not appear as though the precious stone was moved in order to do this. It's like it is the eye of this creature, but the entire creature's the entire animal's like look was formed around the fact that they excavated an amethyst in that area of the stone. And so out of that, like they form the shape of the creature around that eye.
Yeah, the creature comes from the environment, not the minds of the people who have decided they're going to build a rooster here.
I think our double helix statue is called the geminate. A geminate is a double or repeat in speech or sound. It is consisting of identical adjacent speech sounds. So it's that double helix in sound.
Oh, so good.
Oh, I love it. Wait, I'm writing that down.
There's also a building, and I'm trying to remember what it is, but it was being excavated. I just saw a video about it that is essentially an entire like palace that was carved out of a single stone.
I love
and
that.
So I love the idea that this place was all carved out of a single stone.
I also want to just throw in there because I think it's so cool. I want the level of intricate detail of Angkor Wat. I mean, just this unimaginable skill.
Yeah.
All right. We picked not a single architectural style, but boy, did we make one.
Yeah. We did the spirit of that. We did the spirit of the of the thing.
So our next excavated die is orange, and it's a number 1.
Ooh, first orange.
It's a
number
orange
1.
Great. Let's go to orange. And Tracy, I think this is you.
It is. You know what my first instinct is.
Go ahead and read the question so that people know.
Oh, I'm sorry. You find preserved human remains left behind in a unique position. What were they clearly doing when they died, and how does that impact the way you imagine the disaster here occurred? My first instinct, and I hope everyone had the same first instinct, is the man who looked like he died masturbating in Pompeii.
Of course.
In this case, we will go beyond our first instinct, tempting as though it may be. Find human remains left behind in a unique position. I want to find someone, not just one person, a whole group of scholars. And different parts of them have been like dismembered. I mean, it was an attack. The clothes, if we even find them, ragged. But they're all laying on the ground, and every single one of them is reaching out towards the same statue.
What's it a statue of?
It is a statue of the figure that they have created around mythology for their North Star. So their main navigational body, they created a mythology around it of where we have the Big Dipper, the bear themed mythology. For them, it's Phoenix. It's rising up every day. It bursts to life at night and then dies during the day and then comes back at night. And they all have their, specifically, right arms reaching towards this statue.
Are they mummified? Do they still have their skin, or are they bones?
Oh, 100%. Still have skin, and weirdly, I'm going to say their clothes are preserved in the state in which they were attacked. Like, it almost looks like an animal attack or something came at them, and it's frozen in time. Like, but it's in a mummified way. Like, things didn't preserve perfectly. Someone clearly tried something, or someone tried to preserve these and didn't do a great job, but didn't do the worst job.
So good.
So good.
The next one is an orange, number 4. You've noticed a common burial procedure or death practice in your excavation. What is it, and what purpose do you think it served? Is this me? Okay.
Mm.
So where in our society we bury people underground in crypts.
Mm-hmm.
The cemeteries, or maybe tombs is a better word here, would be in massive buildings, and hanging from the ceilings, they would have people in the position of the hanged man on tarot, so hanging by one foot with that kind of 4 shape made out of their legs, hanging upside down, and looking up almost like bats. And
I love it. I'm on board.
And they would be in these kind of open air structures. So there was a ceiling and there was at least 4 pillars, but the walls of these were open air, almost like markets. And to enter the city, you have to, from any direction, you have to go through one of these massive buildings. And they are varying degrees of crowded with bodies. And it is suspected now that the way that the wind affected these bodies would also have an impact on how people operated. And the way things fell from them.
Oh, that's so cool.
Just little people wind chimes.
Yeah.
I would say there's bells attached to them, and did I miss
know.
that?
I would say there's not bells attached to them, but they were adorned in various metals. Their clothing and different jewelry
so
would hang.
Because the idea of a bell being too sacred, so you'd have metallic objects to mimic the sound, but it's not the sacred gods talking to you. It's just the way that we represent it.
Can I make
delicious.
a pitch too?
Yeah, get in there.
The oldest bodies are just bone, so it's the bones clattering together in the areas where the oldest bodies
100%. And I think the things that would fall down from the bodies would also speak to what was going on in their culture.
Right.
Yeah.
So cool.
Oh, I love this. I'm having so much fun.
Okay, next one. Do our next excavation.
Okay. I'm digging. I have a green number 2. Do we do that one?
No.
Okay.
A green number 2. You keep finding a common item that must have been used often by the people here. What is it, and why is it unusual? Okay, I think that the thing that we find, to stay on the topic of bells, is that when people are outdoors, like outside of their homes, they were required to carry a bell, but it had to have no tongue.
Oh,
it was a sign of like who your prominence to carry the bell. Like you would have small bells or larger bells, and I think that the smaller your bell was, the more rich you were considered. So the people that were the poorest had to carry these large bells upon their back as they were walking through the towns.
Oh,
and that was like seen as being, that's how you knew what if you were rich, you just had to carry a little one, and it was just maybe on your lapel or something, but none of them had tongues, and none of them were allowed to ring the bell yourself. Is sort of a leading theory.
Yeah.
That like the wind had to ring the bell.
Could you earn, through carrying this bell around or doing something, the opportunity to have a smaller bell?
I think that there's a lot of history that is unfounded in the research that you could, because humanity wants to see that people can sort of move their way up stratification. But I think everything that I've found in particular says no, that you were born with the bell and you die with the bell. And that is one of the things that I think is most difficult for us in thinking about the society, that there was that stratification existed and there was really no good way out of it.
What decides the bell that you are born with? Is it like financial? Is it family status? Is it just you the gods give you a bell when you're born?
I don't think we know. I think from the history, we don't know why people were given certain sizes. We don't know. It didn't seem to be familial.
So families could have a varying degree of sizes within their...
Yeah,
okay.
Like there you know, there's
that's so good.
two parents with a child, and the two parents have these huge bells, and the child has like a tiny one. And when we first uncovered that, we thought that it just depended on like the size of the person, the bell that you had, or the age of the person. But that was immediately, as we started excavating, immediately thrown out the window, because there were children. There were children found crushed by the bells, and there were, you know, old elders that were carrying tiny bells, and we're like, okay, there's some other sort of thing here. But none of them had the tongues to make them ring.
I imagine, and you know, if you guys are like, I don't know about this, the idea of scholars, we've talked about scholars being like very precious. So I don't know if you know what a chatelaine is. I know Rowan does, but it's basically like, think of a thing you can attach to your waist or your belt or your
commonly worn by women.
Yes, in the 15, 17, 1800, like it was a way for like a seamstress on her chatelaine, which would be on her belt, would have sewing needles and sewing supplies and scissors.
You know how women never have pockets?
Yeah.
It's literally a fancy pocket.
A fancy outside pocket.
Amazing.
An outside pocket.
That things dangle from. And I imagine scholars would have a chatelaine with their scholarly tools that proudly displays their bell.
Bell. I love that.
That's good. Okay. So the next one was a blue 6 again. So I'm going to roll
so let me mark. I have to actually mark these two, which means that we hit another milestone question before we do the blue 6. So let's jump down and do the next milestone question.
From your time excavating here, you realize people of this civilization also valued, and then you choose one you didn't choose before.
So from our work so far, what do we think we want to add? We could do something obvious like intricate jewelry, which we've talked about.
No.
We did.
They
But
can
I
have
think that
jewelry
doing something
anyway.
Yeah.
What about time? Because sound is art made of time.
I love that. Let's do time.
I'm on it. What do you mean sound is made of time?
Like music is the art that we write in time, is what I should have said.
And I think also the idea that like, even when we were talking about the Tunguska event, like the explosion took 10 minutes to get to you. So like there is this idea of time and how it affects the way, and celestial bodies are a way to track time.
Well, exactly. That's what I was thinking. I was like, it makes sense with what we talked about with if you're tracking the celestial bodies, nighttime's going to be really important, and where things are happening at what time. You know, we talked about when the bells ring, and I'm like, good choice. Good choice. I love this.
Yeah, good choice. Okay, so that's our number 2. Now we do a blue number 6.
Okay, so I got a blue 6, but we had already done that, so I re-rolled it, and I got a 4. And Tracy, this is so good. Well, actually, Spencer, this is so good, but Tracy now gets to... Read it.
Okay. You find evidence that supports something you only thought was a myth until now. What is it, and what does it teach you? The problem is I could go a few different directions with this. So which way am I going to go?
Most fucked up one. Fuck it up, Buttercup.
Okay.
Or, let these people live happily. I don't know.
No, they're not going to live happily. They're definitely not.
Not in our story.
So... we established that there is a phoenix that represents their North Star, that is kind of their main deity. It represents the fact that they can always die and be reborn. But in the mythology, it is in a constant battle, and the reason why it dies every night is it's overtaken by another creature that comes from below the earth and bursts out during the day. And they are in a forever battle of the phoenix trying to protect at night and this creature trying to destroy during the day. And they are real. And that is what we have discovered, is these aren't just mythological story beings. These are real creatures that are in this world.
And they come up from beneath the...
They come up and down. The phoenix is above,
shit.
the creature is below. Our beautiful civilization is sandwiched in between their epic battle.
And so what do we see like a winged creature trapped here in the city with us, and then we feel like the sediment sort of below our feet, and we watch as like there's in the distance there's like some sort of battle between them.
Absolutely. And the movements from both the wind from the bird flying and the creature underneath rattles and causes the bells to chime.
Yeah.
And that is part of how
like
the story is
a
told.
warning.
Yeah, it's a warning that they're coming. Oh, it's so good. So good. Okay, that's our blue 10. Things are getting crazy.
Okay. I gotta dig a little. Sorry, I was transfixed. Oh no. I got a green number 3, so we already did that, so let me re-roll it.
Okay.
I got a 3 and a 6, which is a 9. You encounter something alive down here. What is it, and how do you handle it?
Well, sounds like we got teed up for that one perfectly.
You know, it's like when the cards speak, the dice speak, all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call them story dice. Whenever we're like, story dice, they're deciding, not us.
Interesting. Encounter something alive. I'm gonna go a different way.
Yeah, do it.
I love it.
And down here, we've found these plants that grow in and around the bodies that hang from the ceiling.
Oh,
and they clearly don't need light or a lot of light because we are underground. And they are so deeply entwined in the bodies that when we first realize that these plants are still alive, it is because we're trying to remove them from the bodies, thinking they also must be dead. And then the vines tighten around the bones. And we have learned in examining these plants more closely that what we originally thought were kind of like hairs coming off the vines are actually tiny little like arms, little that move almost like an anemone, but really, really little. And they burrow into the bones. So they're almost like pitted and they hold on to them and they flower.
I was going to ask what they look like, so it's good to know.
They're green vines, but they flower and they have these blazing red blooms.
Yeah.
And the flowers tend to bloom in areas that the blossom will be somewhat protected. So they bloom a lot out of the eyes and the mouths and the rib cages of the bodies.
Yeah, they do.
So
yeah,
good.
they do.
Yeah,
It's so good.
And we originally thought that aside from being attached to the bodies, they were fairly benign. But the group that was working with the vines and studying them, someone recently died. And when he fell to the ground, a little flower popped out of his mouth.
Oh, so good.
Oh, they're so good. There's so many implications of like that. That's either like, you know, they're there to protect the dead. They're there to like protect.
I don't know.
It's so good. It's so good.
Oh shoot! I gotta dig again. Okay.
Yes, if we were on the same place, we would all pass it around. It wouldn't be all on you.
I'm so sorry. I got too into it.
I love it.
I understand.
Oh, this one's gonna be so good. Okay. This is an orange number 5.
An orange 5. Okay.
And it says, you find something you didn't think was supposed to be invented for at least a few hundred years after the fall of the society. What is it, and how does it change the way you view them?
So I'm marking 5 on our thing, which brings us to our next milestone question. And we're answering number 5. How does it change? What is it, and how does it change the way you view them? I'm looking back at what we chose. We chose time, right?
Which is kind of why I to explain myself, since this is a podcast where we talk about writing, that's kind of why I wanted to incorporate plants, because plants are so tied to time. They move through time in a very different way than humans do, because they're a lot slower. I don't know.
So I think that what we find is that there are similar plants to what we're growing in on the bodies, not the same plant, but like a similar kind of style, like vine style thing that we thought was just overgrowth down here. But it runs up the sorry, what was the thing called, the statue in the center of the plaza?
The geminate.
The geminate. So some vines run up the geminate. We see them running up the sides of the buildings, and anywhere there are bells, especially like large bells, the ones that we think are probably warning signs, and also, are in the wind, that move in the wind, that those vines sort of collect near the top. And what we discover as we're walking by with our equipment is that as somebody brings like some sort of I think it's actually a compass. I think some sort of compass towards a bundle of the vines that are running down the side of one of the buildings, one of the large collections of vines. The compass goes crazy, and as we trace it back, and as we do some tests, we realize that as the wind blows, it pushes the bells back and forth, which creates kinetic energy that is channeled down the vines and actually used as a and the vines are the inside, that like white inside is a conduit. The outside is almost like rubber, so it naturally insulates electricity. And so they didn't know it at the time necessarily, but they were essentially getting kinetic power, small bits of kinetic electricity that was powering small things in their home, like lights and and fire, like would light a fireplace or would light a stove, all from these plants that were literally like cords that were running.
They had power.
But they didn't know that. We don't think they knew.
Right.
It was just naturally like the plants would grow, and then they would snip into a plant and they would light a fire based off of they'd like cut the end off of a plant and then like bring some kindling over to the plant, and the plant would start a fire, and they would place it into the fireplace or whatever.
It's so cool.
So we thought it was overgrowth that had happened after, but it actually was overgrowth that was there during the civilization.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh, I imagine even some of it matches with the mapping of the celestial bodies and all of that.
Okay, that brings us to our 4th milestone. A catastrophe forces your excavation to shut down for a few weeks. What happened? And what are the most superstitious among you think might be to blame?
Oh, I blame Rowan ringing the bell. That's what I blame.
What's your role in this excavation, by the way?
The muscle.
You're the tough guy?
Yeah.
You're protecting the people? You're not even digging?
I protect, I attack. Absolutely. Yeah. No thoughts, head empty, only hit.
Spencer, what's yours?
Big brawn.
I think that given what I've just discovered, that I'm like I study remains, but also had a I study human remains, but also have a biology background.
Does that mean you were studying the plants and the bodies?
Yeah, for sure.
Goodbye.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye-bye. I think it was somebody that I knew that died from it.
Bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm very superstitious, very sketched out by everything happening around here. And I fully think that I think we woke up something we shouldn't have woken up.
So what happened? What's the catastrophe?
Oh, I have a pitch.
Okay.
Yeah.
We come down a morning, like one of the mornings after getting some rest, and the city has shifted and blocked off our entrance.
It won't let us in?
It looks like a cave in at first from far away, but once we get up close, we realize that is a stone wall that has blocked our entrance. And as we start to dig around, we realize it is literally a massive building.
So we just have to
that has
wait?
shifted in front of the entrance. Well,
Wait for the city to let us back in or shift again?
Or we have to dig a new entrance, right? Or whatever we have to do for a few weeks. I think we're doing both. I think we're probably trying to find a new entrance to the city, but we have to be careful, obviously, going down and wrecking stuff. Like we found a natural entrance before, but now it's
I would say
off.
then if it stops us for a few weeks, we're trying to dig our way into a new entrance, and then one night it just shifts again.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Oof. Was there anyone who was still in there that got shifted and stuck inside?
For sure. I think there were probably some people doing the night shift that we lost.
Yeah, they didn't live. Oh, and they didn't live
weeks.
Not in a we starved from food way. They didn't live in a we found them and they were just smears on the wall way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The last image, the only remnant of them is one of their arms reaching towards the statue.
Yes. So good.
But it's only their arm.
It's only their arm. Yeah.
Ah.
The problem with playing these games with you guys is every time we do stuff like this, I get so emotionally attached to whatever it is that we've created that it's then all I can think about.
Oh my. Okay, that's really good. I love that. Good teamwork. Okay, so the next one is blue. It's a 6, but we've already done 6, so I'm gonna roll.
Great. Roll.
Oh, 7. It's you, Tracy.
Great. Oh, look at this. Tracy, you might have been the one trapped in there.
No.
You end up somewhere in these ruins alone. What did you find that you aren't going to tell the others? So, big, brawny babe that I am.
So brawny, so babe.
Thank you.
So big.
Famously so. So, one night, as we're trying to find our way in, I go and look, because my attitude is we should not be forcing our way in. This city doesn't want us in, and I'm not going to fight it. I'll fight anything but the city. And so I go off on my own while everyone else is trying to dig, because I'm like, this is not safe. I don't believe in this. And while I'm looking around, a wall shifts behind me and traps me in my own space. And what did you find that you aren't going to tell the others? What wouldn't I tell you? I find this device that almost looks like a battery. And it's connected to the vines. And I plug it in, and then this device sort of lights up with it, almost like a hologram, like something shimmering in front of me. And it shows the battle between the two creatures, the phoenix and the underground creature. But then it shows everything being destroyed. The whole world, the city, the world, everything. And then the whole thing shuts down and powers itself off and is inert in my hands. And being so superstitious about this city and the events that took place that destroyed it, I don't share that with others because I'm afraid they're going to investigate it and then make it come true. Because my belief is that time is cyclical and that what has happened will happen again. And I'm scared of seeing that event happen again.
Dirty liar.
So good.
Gotta share it. So the next one is an orange 5, but we've already done that. So please hold.
Great. So this is the game design on this is that the higher the die value goes when it's finished rolling, the more intense the questions get. So when you answer the lower questions, you're more. So it is literally designed in a way that like, yeah, we do get the lower ones a lot and we roll it more and that way we get higher on the list, but you don't get the more intense questions until you've already answered the lower questions. So now that is by design. That's not.
That's so good. But also, we've been getting high ones.
I know. But you can't get a 10, right? Like, you can't get a 10 unless you roll a 6.
Yeah,
and
for
then-
clarity's sake, these are all D6.
Yeah. These are all D6 dice.
So for those who aren't gamer nerds like us, that's a standard dice.
And
Six-sided die.
It's a little cube. So I pulled a 5. I rolled a 6.
11, which is a good one, given
Oh, yeah.
everything we've talked about.
The dice have spoken, Spencer.
You discover
Yes.
people here kept track of time in a unique way. What is it, and how do you hypothesize it impacted the way they lived? And Rowan, that's on you.
Okay, so the building that we are beginning to suspect was a repository of information. So may have held scrolls in a library, but has rotted and I think experienced a fire. So we can't be quite sure. There's a big wall in the back of it
Mm-hmm.
that we have, through hours and hours and hours of study from dozens and dozens of experts, have figured out is a calendar. But where we keep track of time moving forward, they kept track of time counting down for generations
Yeah, they
of
did.
people. Hundreds of years they've been counting down.
Mhm.
And initially we were very surprised because it would have been the perfect story if by the time they reached this end of the calendar, the society would have collapsed. But it's very clear that the society collapsed sooner.
Right.
But one night, someone was leaving the library, as we're calling it, to be kind of wrapped up for the day, and they heard this like tink tink tink, like chipping sound, and they turned around, and another day was marked down on the calendar.
That's so good. What the heck are they counting down towards?
And who's still counting?
Yes. Spencer, this game is so good.
Well, we would have more. The game would go on longer if we weren't doing a podcast. We were trying to keep at length, but because
I
of
know.
this, we mark our final.
We're leaving it on the, what are they
milestone.
counting down?
Well, we have one more question, which is the final milestone question,
Mm.
which is, as your excavation comes to an end, you all uncover one final relic that could change the way the history of this place is thought about forever. What is it? This is answered
Ooh.
collectively.
Yeah, what do we
I
find?
have the beginnings of an idea, but I think may only be a jumping off point.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Okay, great. Love it.
But if this society is so obsessed with bells, what happens if they have a giant sculpture of a bell that doesn't have a tongue, but definitely has a place to attach one? And there's lore surrounding this like unrung bell. It says never rung. It will not. It cannot.
Oh, well, I have a thought that we find the bell. We uncover this bell that has, unlike the people of the city who are not buried, they are hung like bells from the ceiling. This bell in reverse is buried into the earth, not because of the whatever event happened here, but because they buried it.
So it cannot be wrong because it's full of dirt.
And the tongue has been separated and put
Yes.
somewhere else across the city.
Can I pitch something?
Yeah.
Can the tongue be the thing I found?
Oh, yes. 100%.
And so the decoration on the outside of the bell shows the same sort of images that we saw of these two creatures
Mhm.
fighting.
Mhm.
The above the heavens and the demons sort of locked in this war.
Oh, the outside of the bell is decorated in the phoenix, and the tongue of the bell is
Oh,
decorated
yeah.
with the
Yes.
beast.
I love that.
From
The
below.
beast from below is the name.
The beast
That's
from
it.
below.
That's the name.
Yeah.
Done.
and they essentially they buried this bell so that it could not be rung again, is essentially what the warnings that we get.
Yeah.
And we don't know why.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
With the unrung
done.
The
bell.
unrung bell
Oh,
is the
how cool is we started with Rowan ringing a bell
Uh-huh.
and we're ending with the unrung bell.
I love it.
It's so cool. I am so obsessed.
Spencer,
This was so
first game
good.
ever played on the
Oh,
podcast.
thank you. Yeah. The debut of the Delve.
It's it was just put together based on all the research that we did. I was like, we can just write a little like game and do a little like exploration of our own city that fell. And obviously I knew we were probably going to put some sort of superstitious weird stuff into it. There's some of those questions, but there's so many questions we didn't ask and so many cool things that that I think if we had a full game session we could flush out, but hopefully you had fun.
I feel like all of us writing together for so long is really evident in how this game was played.
Absolutely. That's why I love, because I love writing with you guys, because that's what writing with you feels like. I mean, it is that level of like, I have this idea and we pitch it and we're like, oh, what about this? And I learned about this one thing and we could do this. Well, that doesn't quite work, but if we twisted it to this way, like there's no ego about it. There's no hurting someone's feelings. It's just pure joy and excitement for sharing ideas together and creating something better than any one of us could create on our own.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's the magic.
I'm so emotionally invested in this city and in this world. I wish I was good at landscape and background painting, because I want to just paint, the double helix of the Geminate and the unrung bell buried and the bodies hanging. And oh, what a cool game, Spencer!
So fun. Well, I'm so glad. It was
great job.
Literally just it's the way that I love to express art and writing, in the same way that you all write stories every week. So I'm glad that we had the chance to play.
Wait, did Spencer just trick us into writing a story?
I didn't write one. I just had us write one.
Amazing. That was so good. I can't believe you designed a game. And the giddiness with which you presented the box of sand to me.
I wish I could have seen that.
Children on Christmas morning don't even hold a candle to the excitement on Spencer's
I literally went to
face.
like a Michael's and found sand in a box, and I was like, I wanted to do like an uncovering of some sort of like an excavation kind of feel, and I was like, what if I just literally get sand and then put dice in the sand and then lock the box up and shake it so that all the dice are rolled and all the sand is thrown, and then as you're digging through, you're finding the dice and what side they're on. So it was just a fun little adventure.
Oh, I had such a good time.
This was the best.
Like,
we're gonna play this game again.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I'm gonna play this again, and just playing games with you guys is one of my favorite things in the world to do. So just
so fun.
Like, this was great.
Tracy, if you buy a box of sand and some colored dice, you too can just have this game available in Pennsylvania. Like, you should do it.
This is true. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna do it. Are you kidding me? Absolutely.
Casey's like, we're doing what now? And then she'll be so on board.
Oh, she'll make a character before anyone else even has any ideas thought out.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Spencer, for being our not one, not two, but 3 episode guest.
So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's been so lovely having you here. I think it's now our turn to turn it around. Rowan, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us something good?
Well, I'm going to stick with the theme.
Okay.
So it's Halloween weekend. No one knows, but Tracy's hair is green. She is dressed as Beetlejuice halfway.
I know. If we release the video of us playing this game, then you'll see my halfway to Beetlejuice costume for my party tonight.
But for Halloween weekend, a bunch of our friends in LA, Spencer's and my friends, are getting together at my place tomorrow night, and we're going to play 10 Candles.
I'm so excited for you. I want to hear all about it.
And I plan on crying. I plan on being terrified. It's no lights. It's only candles. And I have wanted to play this game for so long and just have not been able to get a group together. And Spencer's going to run it for us.
Oh my God. Amazing.
And I can't imagine a more Halloween activity. And also, to be honest, and I do hate this, but I am so tired this year. And I want to... I'm not someone who's going to go out and dress up and go out to a bar or anything like that anyway. And so if I'm not going to party, I just want to do spooky stuff.
Yeah.
But in my jammies.
Always.
And I think that that's the vibe this Halloween.
So for those who don't know, 10 Candles is a game where it's a game of tragic horror.
Thanks, Spencer.
Where everybody's going to die by the end. It's just how it goes. And there are
It's non-optional.
You will die. Yeah.
You are dead.
And there are 10 candles set up on the table, 10 little tea light candles. And as bad things happen and as dice rolls go poorly, candles are extinguished. All the lights in the room are off. The only light that you have is the candles on the table. You have these cool little like note cards that have different aspects of your character. And if you want to use them to re-roll your dice to hopefully succeed, then you can burn them to do that. And so what happens is there's this moment of brightness in the room as you burn this card, and then you drop it in the bowl that's at the center of the table. And
literally burn them.
Yeah, you literally burn them.
Yes.
And then so there's like this flash of light, and that is your like little bit of hope that you have to be able to re-roll your dice. And then but as things happen, the candles are put out, and then finally at the end of the game the 10th candle is put out and the story comes to an end.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
And Stephen Dewey wrote the game, and it's
brilliant.
Perfect.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So.
Oh. Okay, please report back for everyone,
yes.
Me and everyone else, about how that goes. And I can't wait to hear about it.
Tracy, tell me something good.
Okay, my something good is two things. One, they're two shows, really. It's just two shows that I love. One of them is Hell of a Boss, which you guys know I love. I made both Rowan and Spencer watch it while I was out there in LA. Mm-hmm. And the newest season is so good. And it just like, it's got so much heart. Like it's the haha silly demon show, except it's got so much heart and the characters are so well fleshed out and the story is so deep and intricate. And clearly everyone working on the show loves it so much. And so it's on YouTube for free. I just highly recommend it. It's not for kids. It's animated, but it is not appropriate for kids. So this is the new season of Hell of a Boss. And then also the new season of Our Flag Means Death just aired. So Our Flag Means Death is a show that was created by David Jenkins and Taika Waititi. And it is about the historical figure of Blackbeard and the gentleman pirate Stede Bonnet, who is played by Rhys Darby. So good. So amazing. The second season is incredible. And both of these shows just do this thing that I love seeing in TV, which is they're both so queer. They have trans characters, non-binary characters, queer relationships in all different forms. And it's not this like holier than thou, look at us, look at it. It just is. It's stories about people. It's just stories about people. So the second season of Our Flag Means Death is just wrapped up. Beautiful. There's a character in there named Izzy Hands, who I love, but the second season also brought in a fictionalized version of Jingxi, the pirate, who was known as the Queen of the South China Seas. And they bring in a character that's like her, who's so nuanced and amazing, and they bring in Minnie Driver as Anne Bonny as well.
Whoa. That's so
The amount
good.
of excitement I have about that casting is
it's
not
so good.
proportionate to anything.
The way they turn Anne Bonny and Mary Read into a really fun caricature version of them. I'm not going to spoil it. They do a really cute, fun, clever thing. It's just, again, so much love put into it. If you need something to watch, go watch Hell of a Boss on YouTube or Our Flag Means Death on HBO. If you have it available, both are amazing and wonderful, and I love them very much, and they've brought me a lot of joy. So now, Spencer, it's your turn to tell us something good.
My something good is actually from a little bit ago, but it I think is relevant to everything we've been doing here, which is that I'm so excited because we worked so hard on Candela, and Rowan worked so hard on Candela as a freelancer, and put everything into it, even though like I was full-time at the company, and so I was like, yeah, this is my job, and I was like, I recruited Rowan to come in, and we worked our asses off, and and as of maybe a month ago, or a little more than that, a little less than that.
Oh,
Rowan is now full-time as a game designer at Critical Role.
Yes.
With us, at Darren Press with us.
Well earned. It's truly well earned and deserved.
It's something good because before it was just me and freelancers. And so to have Rowan on the team full-time is literally like the greatest gift. And the fact that like we kind of met or got to know each other because of this podcast. And so this podcast was like one of the core reasons why
you're right.
why when we were going to build mythology for Candela, I was like, hey, Rowan, you've done this a bunch. You live here, like come in studio for a couple of weeks. And you did, and that kind of led to what happened. And so so I am just so thankful that we had the opportunity to bring both of you in for Candela, and Rowan, for you to now be on the team full time with us, because I think it's a testament to the kind of work that you all do.
It's the best. Thank you so much. It's so funny when we met at San Diego Comic-Con Special Edition, and when people would ask me what I do, and I talked about our podcast, when people hear the word podcast, they just kind of, they're often like,
they go, oh, you have a podcast, you and everyone else. Okay.
Or like, no, really, there's quite a lot of episodes. And Spencer immediately leaned in, and that was such a cool moment. It was the beginning of such a good friendship. And so to have you on at the beginning for Orpheus and Eurydice with me when Tracy couldn't be there, and now to have you back now that everyone's a friend and you're my coworker, is just the best. It feels unfair how much this podcast and work on Candela has felt like summer camp for all of us getting together. It's just a good time. No one should get to have as much fun as we do.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It's just like, it's so great working with the two of you. You're delightful. I remember when I was out there, it'd be like, it was like 11 o'clock and I was like chipping away at something. And you're like, oh my God, please stop. Like, we need to do this or this or that. Or like, Tracy, you were working all day. And I was just like, no, this is so fun. Like, you have to like pry me away, or I'm like, no.
I love it.
The voices, this is amazing.
So good.
Well, I think we've done it, friends. The first game on Willing and Fable.
We've done it. This is the first game on Willing and Fable. And thank you all so much for joining us. And remember that stories grow with the telling. So if you like what we do, tell a friend.
Or tell a foe.
And we'll see you soon. Okay? Thank you so much for joining us for the Willing and Fable podcast. This episode was written and produced by Tracy Harrison and Rowan Hall. That's me. Our logo is by Jamie Harrison, and our music is by Taylor Ash. If you ever want to watch or read what we're reading, head over to willingandfable.com for our show notes and custom merch, or find us at Willing and Fable on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to join the discussion. We hope you'll rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast using your favorite listening source. And check out Willing and Fable on Patreon, where we have more than a few surprises for you, including custom artwork, stories, and access to our secret Discord channel. And of course, join us next time for another round of original retellings and in-depth research on the history, mystery, and mythology that makes the world so fascinating. I'm an ionosphere girly.
Yeah,
Tag yourself.
I'm a magnetosphere? What is it? Magnetosphere?
Magnetosphere?
Yeah.
To you is whatever that word was.
Herculaneum.
Alternately.
Excellent. Herculaneum, yes.
We each have, okay, so now we're going to show up with a t-shirt with the word we can't say.
No, because it's like the
So
normal
good.
words for me.
No, Herculaneum's a very fair one. My word was alternately.